We on the air?
You tell me,
All
man.
right. I think we're on the air. This show's off to a swimming start so far.
Let it ride, man.
College radio, man. God bless it, right?
Nothing else like
Hey,
it.
brand new studio. We're breaking it in. She's shining. There's a lot of new buttons around here. A lot of people are learning things. All right, so the show's off and running. Welcome in. This is episode 1 of Here's the Thing with Jesse Varner. We hate to interrupt your regularly scheduled Supreme Court hearings to bring you the best D-list sports talk show on the lovely campus of Old Dominion. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jesse Varner. I am a student here at ODU. A little bit about myself. I spent 5 years working at Fox Sports Richmond as the co-host and producer of the Wes McElroy Show. So I am a little bit of an older student. I am the old guy doing college radio.
Always a student of the game, though.
That's where my life is at right now. But kidding, I'm a photographer over at WTKR News Channel 3. Hope you guys tune in, check us out. I'm on in the morning, so I'm up at like 3:30 every day. But before that, I did some time at Wavy TV 10. You'll get to know me as the show goes on throughout the year because I'm not going to bore you with the details of my boring life. But I'll put this out there. I was at VCU before I came to Old Dominion.
Oh boy!
And
you just let the cat out of the bag.
Well, I'm still love my Rams, still a diehard Rams fan. So I probably lost about all 5 listeners of this show. But what we're gonna do with the show, I'm gonna set it up for you a little bit. We're definitely gonna talk a lot of ODU sports, and oh boy, we got a big one to talk about today. Also, we're going to do national headlines. It's probably going to be football heavy for the next few months because, I mean, that's how this time of the year rides until we get to college basketball, my favorite time of the year. I've contacted some of my old colleagues. I hope to get them on the show as soon as we get the phone lines figured out. Also, we'll get your wallets ready for the sports weekend, too. We'll talk a lot of picks against the spread. We'll talk over-unders. We'll talk fantasy sports as well. And we'll do all this until they tell me I cannot do this on college radio. So if you choose to stay with me on this journey, we'll figure it out as we go along this train wreck of a show here. So, but before we go ahead, let me go ahead and introduce today's co-host. And depending on where the show goes, this could be his first or last time on the show. He was voted best news hair in Virginia.
Oh my gosh!
For 2017, he is Wavy TV 10 sports anchor Nathan Epstein. Nathan, say hi to Old Dominion.
Hello, Old Dominion. I have to say I'm feeling a little bit strange right now because very much like you, I was immersed into college radio and I certainly did my time as an intern, also with Fox Sports Radio, back when we still called it Sports Radio 910.
Good old Sports Radio 910.
Good old Sports Radio 910. And I have to say that this is the first time I've been at a college radio station since my days at...
It's not bad in here. This is nice, man. I thought... When I signed up to do this show, I thought I was going to be doing it in a broom closet, like where they keep the janitor's bucket and everything.
Well, and no, this is a beautiful station. And I have to say, again, back from my days at WMLU, we had our own little space down in the basement of Heiner, and which was a building that nobody here knows what I'm talking about. But I certainly have my memories of college radio. So yeah, this is fun.
Well, I remember I was at WVCW and it was like a broom closet. And trust me, we were dubbing cassette tapes. That's how old. That's. I just showed my age right there.
Come on, man. What? You're 34. You're not.
Oh my God.
You're not the crypt keeper.
Why did you just tell the audience? Why did you just tell the audience?
You're not the crypt keeper. Come on, man.
Come on, man. I'm trying to pick up college babes here, and you just told them my age.
There you go.
I could be the older brother. Anyways, Nathan, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Nathan did go to Longwood, but he is a diehard UVA fan.
Yeah. Well, my father went to UVA, and actually we always talk about where did you get your love of sports? Why are we in this business? Why do we like sports talk radio? Why do we like sports television?
Because we were really bad at math.
That too. But aside from that, we all have memories of when we were kids and kind of the things we latched onto. My father was a UVA graduate, 78, and he took me to UVA football and basketball games from the time I was, a little guy. And, I've been watching UVA from the time I was a kid. So that's where my UVA fandom comes from. But it also is where my sports fandom comes from. So had it not been for that, I wouldn't have found a respect for what Virginia Tech football has done, for a respect of North Carolina, and for all love of sports. So that's right.
Well, let's get into that a little bit. Let's, speaking of the Hokies, they have not had a stellar of a week. I know it's 4 days old, and the sports calendar.
Oh shoot!
I know. Well, I was going to say it's 4 days old, and we know that in sports we like whatever's newer and what's coming at us. But man, this campus is still buzzing from what happened on Saturday. I still can't believe what I saw, even though I left the game early. We'll get to that in a little bit.
I sympathize with you, brother.
I still cannot believe I left that game early. But in case you've been living under a rock where you've been disconnected from the internet, whatever, for the last week, the Monarchs shocked the college football world. They did. They beat number 10 Virginia Tech, where 13, whatever poll you follow, came in here to the Ballard Stadium as a 28-point favorite, 4-touchdown favorite, thinking they were going to rough around Bobby Wilder and the Monarchs. And what happens? They shocked the college football world with a 49-35 victory in what was a stellar performance from the offense for Old Dominion. Nathan, you covered the game for Wavy. Just right now, off the bat, what was your initial reaction when that clock hit 0?
Well, I'm going to steal something from Bobby Wilder. He heads over to Wavy TV every Wednesday for the coaches show. And
you can do.
Can I plug?
You
can I
can do
plug?
shameless plugs. This show is one big shameless plug. So by all means, go
All
ahead.
right, shameless plug. The Old Dominion football show every Wednesday, 10:45 on Fox 43. So he comes into the station every Wednesday, and he said something on the show that I'm going to steal here. He said, on paper, none of this made sense. None of this made sense on paper. You have a team in Old Dominion that came into that game 0-3. Not only were they 0-3, but they came in with losses at, I wouldn't even call it a loss. I would say it was a shellacking at Liberty. They give up a 17-0 lead at home against FIU, and then they go on the road, and they can't.
It was to Charlotte.
Well, not only did they lose to them, but they couldn't get Charlotte off the field.
Charlotte's won 3 games in like 3 years.
Something along those lines. And, so they were 0-3, and Old Dominion really showed no signs of being able to compete in this game. You look at Virginia Tech, started the season on the road at FSU. Now, granted, I have my own thoughts on FSU. I'm sure we'll get to that a little later.
Ooh, that dumpster fire.
But still, to go on the road and win at Florida State, especially the way they did, completely dominated, is a respectable thing to do. And then they come home and completely, beat the brakes off of William and Mary. And you're thinking, based on that, on paper, this game had no semblance, no indication of being even close.
The only people who believed they were going to win that game were the people in the Monarchs locker room.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that. And all credit goes to Bobby Wilder and his staff for he actually explained how leading up to that game, he was talking about the anatomy of an upset, what goes into an upset. And the first thing you have to do is you have to believe. He had to instill a belief in his team that he could do it. He had to, and actually he told about how he was referencing the 1980 U.S. hockey team beating the USSR. He referenced...
Dropped a little Herb books.
Oh, yeah. This is your time. He referenced all these things about how they can make it happen. So you're absolutely right. When they took that field, 0-3 record, the stats, throw them out the window. These guys believed they could win, and they showed it right from opening kickoff.
So story of the game, and this might be twofold right here. You covered this kid. You've covered this kid since he went to Bishop Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
Is the story of the game, is it Blake LaRussa's performance coming off the bench, or is it the offense putting up nearly 700 yards on a Bud Foster defense?
Well, I think that the story of the game is twofold. Number one, it's the team as a whole, because you got to remember, even though the defense allowed 600 yards, they still gave the Hokies fits, which you didn't see that coming. But offensively, you can't point anywhere else other than Blake LaRussa. Blake LaRussa, the redshirt junior quarterback, as you said, he's a local guy, so he's the hometown kid that comes off the bench. Now, this was scripted. Stephen Williams, the starter of the game, he goes 3 snaps. It was a 3-and-out. The Hokies score 3 or 4 plays later on an 87-yard touchdown. And per the script, they brought in Blake LaRussa to take over the offense, and basically they were going to play both quarterbacks and see who had the hot hand. I think we all knew very, very quickly who had the hot hand in that game.
Well, you got to think Bud was probably prepping for Stevie Williams the entire game. He was probably prepping for the dual threat quarterback.
And I haven't read anything to that effect, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if they were prepping for the dual threat quarterback. But right from the time Blake LaRussa got in there, you could sense something was a little different. First of all, how aggressive they were going to play all game, because Blake LaRussa's first snap he took all game was at his own 1-yard line. His own 1-yard line. Did they call a run up the middle? Did they call a quarterback sneak to get more room? No. They call a pass play where LaRussa just beautifully lofts it right down the sideline. Travis Fulgham makes the catch right on the boundary in a place that only he could make the catch, and it seemed like that set the tone for the rest of the day. They'd shown their cards. They said, listen, we're coming right at you. Blake is going to throw it. They have 2 NFL-caliber receivers in Travis Fulgham and Jonathan Duhart. And not only
I'm going to get to Duhart in a minute.
Right, but not only are they NFL caliber, they're both senior receivers going up against an inexperienced and small defensive backfield for Virginia Tech. So Wilder was talking about leading all the way up to the game. They knew what the matchup was, and they were going to go for it. Whether or not it worked, that is where Blake LaRussa comes in, and that is how unbelievable it was to see this 5'10" former walk-on
quarterback
completely
walk-on quarterback.
And again, another shameless plug here.
I think the kid earned his scholarship this week.
Exactly, another shameless plug. I did a story on him for the Sports Wrap a couple days ago, and I said in the first part of my story, think about this: you have guys, Matt Schaub, Matt Ryan, Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson, all these guys NFL quarterbacks. 3 of them Pro Football Hall of Famers, likely. One of them just won the league MVP 2 years ago, and the other one's a Super Bowl champion quarterback. None of them did against Virginia Tech what Blake LaRussa just did, which is amazing.
Bud Foster defense. Bud Foster's he's going to probably be the first coordinator ever going in the Hall of Fame.
It very well could be. And then somebody else brought up the fact that, think about this, Virginia Tech also played 2 guys by the name of Aaron Rodgers and Andrew Luck. And those guys couldn't do what Blake LaRussa did. So it just the stats that keep coming out at you just become more and more amazing.
That throw Blake made to Duhart in the 4th quarter when it was tied up with 5 minutes left. Cojones. The kid's got cojones. I have never seen a quarterback that small and that confident with that throw. And Duhart just picked it off out of the air like it was nothing and just put 2 feet down in the end zone. Go ahead, score.
Well, go ahead, score. And that, to me, I mean, they were going back and forth all the way up until that point. But I think at that catch, to me, was the game sealer. I said in my head, this is game. He makes that catch with 3 minutes left to go. And look, Virginia Tech still had the ball, and they still drive it all the way inside Old Dominion territory. And again, it took a 4th down stop to really solidify it, and then Jeremy Cox, puts it away with that 40 yards.
Man, Cox had a monster game.
130 yards, 2 touchdowns, and
that's the performance they've been waiting to see Cox out of all season.
Oh yeah, it was out of everybody.
Out of everybody. Yeah, they've been waiting to see that out of everybody.
O'Shane Zimenez on defense gets 2 sacks, and you have
and O'Shea's basically just won about every National Player of the Week award this week too.
Yeah. So all around, you asked me what the story of the game is. Yes, it starts with Blake LaRussa. You can't ignore it in the national quarterback or the National Player of the Week, I should say. And it starts with him, but all around, I mean, everybody just played out of their mind.
Special teams too, man. I have not seen the special teams play like that in years.
From the first quarter, you have forgive me for missing the punter's name, but puts a punt down inside the 1 yard line. And
that's what right there, man. I was just like, when I saw that, I was like, all right, Bobby's got these guys playing, man. He's got these kids believing.
But I think, and we've talked about this, off the air, but watching the game unfold, it really was incredible to see everything happened right according to script. I mean, on paper, this looked like it was going to be 35-0 at halftime. Virginia Tech, first series of the game, Stephen Peoples busts through the line, 87-yard touchdown to the house, and you're thinking, oh boy, here we go. Let the slaughter begin, right? Well, a couple of drives after that, it was 1 or 2, the first touchdown catch to Jonathan Duhart.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking, okay, well, this is kind of interesting. They tie it up. I mean, they only got past the 50-yard line one time in Blacksburg last year. And here they are, only the 2nd or 3rd series of the game, and they tie it up. And so you're thinking, all right, well, that's cool. From a TV standpoint, hey, we have an Old Dominion highlight to put on.
Yeah.
And
hey, at least we get one touch. Hey, in news for us and what we do for a living, one touchdown can sometimes be good enough.
It can save you sometimes,
It can save you
sure.
some time, yeah.
But then as the game went along, so then Virginia Tech, again, takes a 14-7 lead. Defensive back for Old Dominion falls down. It led to a 40-some-yard touchdown throw. And then as Virginia Tech is driving right before the half, potentially to take command of the game, heading into the locker room 21-7 or 17-7, and you have an interception from a freshman defensive back. And not only do they intercept it, they take advantage. They go for it on 4th down. They convert a 4th down. And then the second touchdown pass of the game from the LaRussa to Duhart, and it's tied at the half. You're thinking, what?
Yeah.
I know I'm bringing up a semi-painful memory for you, but you're thinking, it's tied at the half? What in the world is going on here?
No, that was the buzz. I went down to the concourse when it was tied at the half, and that was the buzz. Everyone's like, okay, something's going on here. Hokie fans weren't feeling too well. I left the game because I was like, all right, it's tied at the half. ODU need to do what they need to. Virginia Tech's going to rally and punch them in the mouth in the second half.
And to that effect, first drive of the second half for Virginia Tech. This is where I thought Virginia Tech was going to take command. because the first 2 touchdowns for Virginia Tech, they were big plays. There's an 87-yard run and a 49 or 48-yard touchdown play when a defensive back fell down. The second drive, or the first drive of the second half, Virginia Tech, it was a punch you in the mouth kind of drive. It was chunk plays, 4 or 5 yards each time. It was something like a 10-play drive. And that's where you thought, okay, they're going to wear down the defensive line and they're really going to establish what they want to do. And then after that again, you have LaRussa drives him down and completes the touchdown pass to a pretty open Travis Fulgham to make it 21-all. And when they did that, and every single time Virginia Tech had a punch, it was a counter punch from Old Dominion. Every time, and that was the amazing thing. And speaking of punches,
the fact they didn't back down, man.
And think about punches. Blake LaRussa, boy, did he take some hits in that game.
He did. Well, he's a small quarterback going up against an ACC offensive line.
And that's what Wilder said really invigorated and inspired his team, was seeing this 5'10" quarterback taking all these hits. Yeah. And he referenced this, several times, but there was one particular play where LaRussa, there was a face mask that was so egregious that his helmet was nearly ripped off. I mean, his helmet was turned around, and LaRussa just pops right back up and actually gives a little shove into the defensive back, and actually may have shoved the wrong one, but he was just looking for somebody to hit. He's like, "Come on, let's go." When you see that, when his teammates saw that, you could tell they were like, "Hey, we're behind this guy."
Hey, I'm glad you remember most of the game because you were working. I do not. I had a few adult beverages that day, but that's neither here or there.
You're
obviously,
off. You're off.
Yeah, I was off. I was off of work. I was enjoying myself. I was at the tailgate and everything.
Yeah.
But obviously, you guys know what happened. You can check the highlights out. There's full recaps everywhere. Season's got to be saved for the Monarchs now, right? Is this season saved?
Season saved. That if you ask Bobby Wilder, absolutely not.
Well, no. I mean, Bobby Wilder.
Look,
you want to go 1-0 every week. That's Wilder's.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
that's every college football coach's thing.
Sure. I mean, right now, 1-3. You got 7 games left. They want to win the rest of the 7 games. From a fan standpoint, this team could go 1-11,
and they'll be fine.
They'll be say, "We just beat Virginia Tech.
We just beat Virginia Tech." And trust me, I've got JMU friends that have still not let Virginia Tech fans live the fact down that JMU went into Blacksburg. They have a national title.
Mm-hmm.
And JMU fans will still tell you their best memories when they went to Blacksburg and beat Virginia Tech.
And that was, and we talk about season over, and I know you're going to transition here to Tech in a little bit, but season over, season salvaged, whatever. Remember, Virginia Tech lost that game to JMU in 2010. That 0-2 Tech team went on to win their next 10 straight and made it to a BCS game.
Yeah.
So, season over, season salvaged, there's a lot of football left to go. And what's going to be, there's going to be a lot of eyes on this Old Dominion ECU game against a very, very good East Carolina team.
I kind of want to get into that. But first, I want to talk about, is this the biggest sports moment in ODU history? I mean, there's been a ton. I mean, they beat when they beat DePaul in '81 as the #1 team. The national titles that they won in women's basketball.
Yeah.
The field hockey national titles. They had Nancy Lieberman.
It's funny because I was actually thinking about that myself.
The run to the NIT Final Four.
Maybe, but
that's sarcasm
I think.
right there.
Well, and I think, with regards to that, NIT, no, but
obviously,
but the shot that got them to the NIT Final Four, that's one of the greatest plays in Old Dominion history. When Trey Freeman from half court, lets it fly and banks it in. But the one thing that I thought about, I was relating it really to, I think as far as moments go, I don't see how it can't be the biggest moment, simply because football is king. Football is the biggest sport there is.
Program's only 10 years old.
It's only 10 years old.
That is very young in the college football world.
And then you go up against the kings of the Commonwealth. You go up against Virginia Tech, who is the best, most popular team in the Commonwealth, and they come.
You battle for recruits. You battle for recruits.
Well, and they come to your house, and you beat them in a game that nobody gave you a snowball's chance and to win. And but then at the same time, I think about moments and teams because, the team is yet to be determined. But then you think about, those Lieberman teams and, the Ann Donovan teams and all those teams, Marianne Stanley, those teams that really, they captured
Marianne Stanley, they went like 72-2 under her in like 2 years or something like that.
And you got to remember that Nancy Lieberman, she was on, they were talking about women's basketball on the Today Show.
Yeah.
She was on the Today Show in New York.
Largely, she still is considered, who you talk to, the greatest women's player of all time. I know there's Cheryl Miller out there, and
Diana
Taurasi, Sue Bird. Lieberman is still discussed as one of the greatest women's players of all time.
There's only one Lady Magic.
Oh, yeah.
Lady Magic, baby.
So, I got to put it up there as well. I do have a lot of respect for college basketball and the national titles that they have, but but that was something that was built, and this was a moment, and this was a moment that had the entire sports world talking.
That's right.
So let's talk ECU real quick, because man, time flies on a 1 hour show, and we still got a lot to get to here.
I know it's time flies when you're having fun.
ECU this weekend, it's got shootout written all over it. Monarchs are a touchdown dog. What do you see happening?
Well,
it's got letdown game written all over it for ODU.
Well, I don't see how a 1-3
especially
team,
you're going on the road.
I don't see how a 1-3 team losing to a 2-1 ECU team is a letdown. But I will say that it is going to be the trick is you know this, I know this, anybody who knows sports knows this, that the trick of recapturing what they found against Virginia Tech is going to be extremely tough.
Yeah.
Going on the road against an ECU team that, they opened up the season with a loss against a MEAC team, but then they turn around and they not only do they beat North Carolina, they beat the brakes off of them, and then North Carolina turns right back around and beats Pittsburgh. So this is a very good East Carolina team, an experienced,
very good offensive team.
Very good offensive team.
I think they're like top 15 in like total offense this season.
And we're gonna see. Do I think that was an aberration as far as how good Blake LaRussa looked? No. Do I think he's going to throw for 500 yards again?
Yeah, he's not going to throw for 500 yards.
Probably not. I think it's a safe bet. That being said, we always talk all the time about identities and teams looking for their identity. I think they found one with these two receivers. I think they know just how good these receivers are, and they say, okay, we got to let these guys just do what they do. These guys are 2 6'3", 4 guys that are NFL caliber bodies, and they're seniors. So I think the game plan for a lot of games moving forward is just going to be, hey, LaRussa,
throw it up and get it
to
these
guys,
or get it to Duhart.
And I think those guys embrace that challenge.
Now there's a lot of tape on Old Dominion now because they pretty much pulled everything out of their arsenal they could to take it to Virginia Tech. So touchdown dog.
We'll see, though, because the only reason I say that is because, look, we're not in those coaches' meetings. We don't know what
we're not.
I don't have the playbook, so, for all I know, they have 100. They have 200 more pages of trick plays.
I tell you what,
I don't know.
I'll tell you what. Here's the thing: they put up more offensive performances like that this season, and Brian Scott's a head coach somewhere next year.
Well, it's for sure. They look. Brian Parsons, our producer over at Wavy 10. We were talking about this and basically saying, look, they play like they did against Virginia Tech. They're going to win a lot more games the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think anybody can predict a 500-yard passing day.
No.
630 total yards output. But, if they play as competitively as they did, they're gonna at least, at the very least, be in a lot of games. And it's going to be extremely interesting. We talk about, is this the turning point in the season? How can they use this? How will they use it? It's going to be interesting to see how they do.
You never know what happens. ECU, but after ECU, got conference play coming up, and I don't know, Conference USA, looking at some of the teams, I don't know. It's meh.
Meh.
I think Old Dominion might still have a chance to go to a bowl game.
Marshall's going to be, they still got games to play, still got time. Marshall is extremely good. They're very, very good, even though they lost to, I think it was NC State.
Holiday still their coach?
Yes. Even though they lost to NC State this past weekend, but NC State's a very good team. Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky was very competitive with Louisville, so they're still a very good team. Middle Tennessee has always just been I know just by saying the name, I know any Old Dominion fan listening is just cringing right now because they have just been the absolute thorn in the side of both Bobby Wilder and Jeff Jones. The team that they just can never seem to get past. But again, we're gonna see how they use this, and but that there is nothing in sports, in any sport, like confidence and momentum. There's nothing like it, and they have every ounce.
I was going to say,
we'll
leave it on that. Old Dominion's got plenty of it moving forward, but I do want to put that game on the back burner, but we had to talk about it. There's no way we could start the show off episode 1 not talking about what happened on Saturday.
How does that feel, by the way? Your first episode, and we talk about the upset of the decade.
We could talk about that for the entire hour.
Right. Yeah.
That's like a buffet for your first show.
Eat it up.
I want to transition to some NFL talk because I cannot believe we're already at the quarter mark of the season.
Jeez.
Man, where does the time go? You wait for so long for something to happen, and when it gets here, it just goes like that. But some headlines today, and I do want to briefly touch on this. The Carolina Panthers signed safety Eric Reed. Why is there relevance to this, to a safety being signed? Because outside the fact that he is one talented football player and a Pro Bowler, He is the other player that took a knee with Colin Kaepernick in San Francisco, and he's kind of lumped into Kaepernick and Kaepernick's actions. For me, I love the stance. I love what the Panthers did here, and their secondary does need a lot of help right now. And I'm only going to briefly touch on this because I think this subject needs to go to the back burner. Tired of hearing about it. I just want to enjoy some NFL football, and I want to enjoy it without some fan being in my face about being a Kaepernick fan. But as a journalist, I'm in total support of what Cap and Reed did and with Nike signing Cap because of their First Amendment rights. Free speech is a great thing in this country. And while I do come from a service family, no one in my family or myself saw this as a disrespect to our military. But I am also in the boat that your employers have rights to distance themselves as well for the actions and the stances that you do take. I do think the NFL colluded against Colin Kaepernick. Sure. Do they have every right to? Yeah, they do. I mean, they are a billion-dollar business, and in the end, they have to look out for themselves. We've seen that with the CBA. We see that with what their players are doing what they're doing to their players right now. We're seeing that with the talks of Jerry Jones and possibly lengthening the schedule. They have to look out for their product, and they have to look out what's going to hurt their product. Do I think Reed's signing is going to lead to a Kaepernick signing? No, I do not. Kaepernick's been out for a little too while now. He plays a very important position. It would take him a long time to catch up to speed to any kind of offense that he would need to get into. The game is played, I mean, completely different these days. And then you just look, everybody's going younger at quarterback now. I mean, it's one of the most important positions in all of sports. I mean, you're looking Baker Mayfield now is going to start for the Browns. You got Josh Rosen coming in. You got Sam Darnold doing his thing with the Jets. Everybody's going younger at quarterback. But I won't lie when I say the Ravens were thinking about signing Kaepernick. I was kind of excited about it. But like I said, also, I don't want to stay on this topic too much. To me, it's just a topic that really just needs to go away, and I'm tired of hearing about it. Everyone's got an opinion about it. And when you bring it up, people get heated about it too. They get passionate about it. But like I said, we are a quarter mark away of the NFL season. And let's talk some Redskins. Because Nathan, shameless plug time, you cover Washington for...
Yes, we do. We cover Washington for Fox 43, Wavy TV 10. And also, if you want to get your Redskins fixed, you can tune into the Washington Huddle every Friday night, 10:30 on Fox 43.
Shameless plugs, baby. You got to love it. So going into the bye week so far for the Skins. They're 2-1. They're sitting on top of the NFC East, which no one saw coming. I mean, with the Eagles the way they are, I knew the Cowboys and the Giants were going to be bad. I did not think the Redskins were going to sit on top of this division going into the bye week.
See, I had a different kind of take on it simply from this standpoint that, first of all, they were, I mean, this is no secret here, that they were the most banged up team in the NFL last year.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. They had like 25 players on the IR.
They lost their entire...
entire offensive line?
Their entire offensive line got injured last year. I think one or two of their star receivers, every single running back they had, virtually every defensive playmaker they had. So they were just so, I mean, with all that, they managed to win 7 games, which 7-9, no NFL GM, no NFL owner, no coach wants that. At the same time, that's pretty darn impressive for a team that was that banged up. So, they went into the season with everything cleaned up, with all the injuries, and now obviously we have to wait and see how far this Morgan Moses thing goes, and Scherf is kind of, bruised up here and there. But when they're healthy, they have one of the best offensive lines in football.
Oh yeah, one of the top tackles in the entire game too.
They have one of the with Trent Williams. They have one of the best running back tandems in the league. You consider now they have AP. He's looking, he's 30.
And we'll get to him in a moment.
He's 33 years old. He's looking like he's 25.
2006 Adrian Peterson.
You got Chris Thompson. You got Alex Smith, who, we can debate on and off about what kind of quarterback he is, but
we'll get to him in a minute.
He's a reliable quarterback, and they have some weapons at receiver. Defensively, this team right now...
I was going to ask you, what are you liking so far that you're seeing with the team? Because for me, what I am liking with the defense right now is how physical this team is.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a Redskins team this physical in a long, long time. I mean, especially with that interior offensive line, those boys love to just hit. And Swearinger too, man. And that linebacking core, these guys, this is a physical football team.
You kind of beat me to it when you think about the defensive backfield and really the defense as a whole. It starts and stops with DJ Swearinger.
Oh yeah,
Swearinger is the emotional leader, but he can also back it up with his play. He's one of the best safeties in the league. You still have Josh Norman, who might not get all the attention that he used to get in Carolina, but he's still one of the top cover corners.
He still cuts down half the field.
Yeah, right. He's still one of the top cover corners in the league. You talk about linebacker, they still have Ryan Kerrigan. The defensive line, and look, you're not not going to do much on defense if you can't get any push. Everything starts with these Alabama guys that they're getting. I mean, my gosh, it's like Alabama 2.0 in the NFL. Right now with Jonathan Allen, and then you got Payne on the interior defensive lineman. Yeah, these guys are getting pushed. Now, there's still kind of, this ugly part of their team last year that kind of reared its ugly head every now and then is the team not being able to stop the run. Every now and then, they'll still have a bad day with regards to defending the run. But overall, you're right. The defense is playing at a very physical level.
Zach Brown just amazes every week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, linebacking, defensive backfield, defensive line, this team is and I think that's going to keep them in a lot of games. Now, I figured with the talent they have, if they could stay healthy, I think Jay Gruden doesn't quite get the credit he deserves, but...
Well, they're well coached for once, too.
Yes.
Like, Gruden's coaching is finally showing in this team because the stupid penalties that happened last season and 2 years ago aren't really happening anymore. These guys are staying more disciplined.
Yeah, and I think that also a lot of those penalties, again, going back to the injury problem, when you're playing with, backups and third stringers and fourth stringers, they're going to make a lot of mistakes as they did last year. So I think a lot of those flags were a result of the injuries that occurred last year. But this year, I think Jay Gruden really, his team is well coached on offense. They're disciplined on defense. They're physical. I predicted at the start of the year that this team really, if they did what they were supposed to do, could win 10 games. I really did. I thought that they looked like a 10-6 team. Now, the Eagles were the class of the division. There's no doubt about that.
I think they still are.
Oh, they still are. There's no doubt about that. Even with that loss at Tampa Bay, I think that the Eagles are still the class. But I really thought that it was going to be a battle between, as far as second place, I thought that Dallas did not impress me. They lost too many weapons.
Oh, yeah. They have nobody to throw the ball to.
They have nobody to throw.
They brought Tavon Austin back from the dead.
Like, literally. And then you have... last place. I mean, my gosh, it's looking. You like to use the word dumpster fire.
Oh, the Giants
and the Giants.
Lord, I feel like with the Giants' offensive line, all defensive lines in the NFL have to call like 7 Mississippi before they could go after the quarterback. So what grade are you giving the Alex Smith signing so far?
In the early stages, 3 games in, I'd give it a solid B+.
Hey, last game he finally threw over more than 10 yards.
Right. I know. And, it's as a fan, you're watching that second game against the Colts and you're going, hey, who cares if you intercept it? Just throw it downfield. Just let your guys go up and make a play. I'd give it a solid B+ right now. Now, we're still so early in the season. We don't know. I mean, it's 3 games and who knows which direction he goes in from here, but he looks exactly like what he's supposed to look like. He's a guy who came in with experience, with the savvy, with the leadership abilities, and yeah, he can throw the football.
Yeah, he's a game manager.
Yeah, so
probably one of the best game managers out there.
Yeah, so he's coming in and he's done what you'd expect him to do, what you'd want him to do, and I think I'd give him a solid B+.
He's a perfect quarterback for a Jay Gruden system because the Jay Gruden system is a very West Coast oriented system. Gets swing passes out to your running backs and. They have one in Chris Thompson, and no one gave Chris Thompson a chance this year. I'm going to talk about the Adrian Peterson here in a second. No one gave Chris Thompson a chance this year because he was coming back from a horrific injury. But Chris, I would say CT's looked pretty good so far this season.
Admitting here that I kept him, we play fantasy, and I kept him on my bench the second week of the season, and he got like 25 points. No, or was it the first game of the season when he played Arizona? Yeah, the first game against Arizona, he got like 25 points, and I had him on my bench.
Well, I mean, and speaking of fantasy, I have AP on almost all my teams. Man, this looks like 2006 Adrian Peterson, and I'm just hoping he can keep this up. Well, partially because he's on my fantasy team,
right?
Too, like to see him, like to see the Redskins win a few games this season.
And as far as AP, I mean, look, he's 33 years old. And
he's playing like a 33-year-old.
No, you're right. No, he's not. Now, granted, what have we been talking about? You give him an offensive line like that, and you give other weapons on that team that they have to key in on as far as receiver goes. As far as you have a guy like Thompson who can come in and really,
hey, and knock on wood, Jordan Reed stayed healthy so far this season.
Oh my gosh, you say that 3 games into the season, but I know it seems like yeah, you're right. But as far as AP goes, we'll see. I mean, he's got the rest of the year. He's still got. 13 games left to go, and you got to see how his body holds up.
Yeah, hopefully his body holds up. I mean, remember, he came back from a really bad ACL tear.
Yeah.
And destroyed the rushing mark the following season. Ran for past 2,000 yards. So, I mean, maybe the guy's just...
Well, and look...
It's just a physical freak.
Well, it's on that note, they're talking... It seems like more and more than just his play. The thing that broadcasters and journalists and everybody following this team always references is this workout that he had right before they signed him. I mean, they keep referencing this workout, and they're talking about just he looked like that word, a freak, at 33 years old. I mean, Jay Gruden, his jaw was on the ground the whole time watching him. So, he's AP. He's a future Hall of Famer. Right now, he's doing what you would, I don't know if the word is expect, but hope that he would do.
He was a low ceiling, he was a low risk, high reward signing, and right now the high reward is paying off for the Skins.
So far.
Especially without Darius, guys, who we were all excited to see this season, but we'll see the kid next year.
What a personality, though.
All right, let's transition from the Skins. You want to do some picks for this week?
Why not?
Let's do some picks against the spread also.
Right.
We'll start out with tonight because tonight is probably the best game on the slate of week 4. We got Minnesota coming into LA. They're giving 7 points to the Rams right now. I got to pick against that spread, man. I'm going to pick this. This is going to be my upset, too. I think Minnesota wins this football game because I think Minnesota's desperate right now, and they need a win. And they need, after what happened against the Bills.
What did happen? I don't
think they still know what happened against the Bills. I know the Rams probably have the best roster in the NFL right now, and this is a home game. I'm going to call for the upset here. I like the Vikings in this one because I think they're going to play, and desperation is a stinky cologne, my friends. And I think they're going to play with that desperation, that chip on their shoulder.
And you have to, and I keep having to remind myself that when you think desperation, and I was trying to remember their record. I was like, it feels like they're 1-2. It's amazing how a tie feels like a loss. Ties
might as well be losses, in my opinion.
Yeah, 1-1-1, and they're good. I got to take the Rams in this one, man. They look so good.
The Rams look like they could be playing in Houston in January.
And here's the funny thing.
Or February.
And here's the funny thing is that you think about the Rams.
Or Atlanta. Sorry, it's in Atlanta.
It's in Atlanta. You think about if the Patriots, if the Cowboys, if the Packers, if the Steelers were playing like this, then I think that the talk would be about, are they going undefeated? But because the Rams, they're still getting used to their new home in L.A., they're a West Coast team. We all know it's all about the East Coast.
It's all about the East Coast.
It's all about the East Coast. I think that this is a very, very this is quietly the best team in the NFL.
Well, they've got an emerging star quarterback in Jared Goff.
But then again, of course, we all know that this early in the season it'll be the Rams against the Miami Dolphins in the Super Bowl, right?
Well, we're about to go to that game next. We got Miami at New England. New England's a 7.5 favorite in this one, obviously because they're at home. Dolphins are 3-0.
Yeah, they are.
If you would have put a gun to my head at the beginning of the season and told me the Dolphins were going to be 3-0 at this point, I would have told you to pull the trigger because there's no way the Dolphins were going to be 3-0. Granted, they're 3-0 against teams. They played the Raiders, the Texans, and the Jets, I believe. Mm-hmm. 3 very bad football teams. We know the Pats, man, and you're a Patriots fan. Go ahead. You are a Patriots fan. You got your Tom Brady jersey and everything. They're gonna play pissed off.
Well, it's interesting you say that because conventional wisdom would tell you, yeah, they're gonna play ticked off. But the thing about it is that's never been the Belichick way. It's never been a pump your chest and we're gonna go out and we're gonna prove a point.
Not a Belichick way, but it's a Brady way. Brady will go out there and play pissed off.
Oh, no, he will, for sure. But, overall as an organization, they've always been the kind of like, we're on to Cincinnati, kind of like, hey, let's fix the mistakes. Let's do your job, do your 111th. I know all the cliches out there. But, if this game were in Miami, I'd be picking Miami right now.
Really?
Because Brady, for whatever reason, they've always struggled in Miami. They always have.
Yeah, that's true.
They have always struggled in Miami. Now, it's a division rival, and they take that into account when it's, hey, look, we don't want our rivals to come in here and run all over us. I don't know, but on top of that, Miami rarely does well in New England, so I'm going to take New England all the way on this one.
Yeah, 7.5. I expect New England to cover in this one.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go through and pick a few games because we are flying. We're flying. We are flying here on time. I'm going to go ahead. Let's go with Tampa Bay and Chicago. That's actually a very intriguing game this season. On this schedule, -2 to the Bears because it is at home. Tampa, the Fitz magic man may have ran out on Monday. I think it's still there. I think you throw 3 picks, but when you still throw for over 400 yards and you throw 3 touchdowns, you're still doing something right, even though you lost. But I know the big stories have been about Jameis. Obviously, they're still going to go with Fitzpatrick. I don't see them going to Jameis.
Well, and actually, I'm kind of lost my timeline here. Has the suspension officially run its course?
Yes, he's been in the facility this week. He's expected to dress. He's been practicing.
Here's the interesting thing. Keep this in mind. Normally, I completely agree with you. If it were me, I would stick with Fitzmagic. I think that you have to stay with the hot hand. Yeah, he lost against Pittsburgh, but he still threw, over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. The thing that is interesting, Chicago right now, they're leading the league in sacks. So my question is,
and they could thank the Raiders for that.
Just from a schematic standpoint, do you say, Fitzpatrick, he's like a deer to headlights back there. I mean, now granted, he can move a little bit, no, for sure. But that's the only thing that, look, if it were me, I completely stick with Fitzpatrick. But
yeah, well, I don't think Jameis is going to be ready. I mean, he's only practiced the last few days, and you really want to put him out there against Khalil Mack, who the Raiders. I don't know what John Gruden is smoking or what the Raiders are doing, because all Khalil Mack has done since he's become a Bear, he's in the running for the Defensive Player of the Year again.
You're right.
I mean, he's just been outstanding.
But to answer your question, you said that it was Tampa Bay giving to.
Yeah, to Chicago.
Tampa Bay giving 2? Man,
I might call the upset on that one, too.
Don't you hate those 1.5, 2-point spreads? Where it's like basically you have to choose.
You want to take it.
Well, you do, but it's like, oh, man. At home, I'm going to go Bears.
You going Bears?
I'm going Bears.
I think I'm going to go Bucks here.
Okay.
Because also, I mean, because of Fitzpatrick, man, Deshaun Jackson is back.
Even though.
I mean, he wasn't playing this well with Jameis.
Even though he did only give me 6 points in that last game, but that's neither here nor there.
Nobody cares about your fantasy football team.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that the truth, though?
All right, just looking down the line, let's actually, in a game I never thought I would ever talk about in my entire life, my entire sports media career, let's talk Cleveland, Oakland. Oakland the favorite, -2.5, but it's Baker Mayfield time, baby. It's Baker time in Cleveland. And his jersey, this is how everyone is hyped. And I'm pretty sure everybody in Cleveland already owns a Baker Mayfield jersey now. His jersey is now a top-selling jersey in the NFL.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm on that train, baby.
Hey, I'm all about Baker time, too. I love Tyrod. Tyrod's a local kid out of Hampton High School. But there's just something about the swag of Baker, man.
His team responds.
He's got that Brett Favre swag. And no, they did. The Browns, you saw the second that Baker came in, the Browns, they were a completely different team. Jarvis Landry was hyped up. Antonio Callaway was hyped up. The offensive line looked, even the defense. The defense is when Baker came in there with that swag, their defense even played different. There was a spring in their step there.
And you can't coach it. And not only that, but you got to remember that defense is legit for Cleveland. So
no, they got some studs on that defense. And you know what? I'm calling for another upset. I think Cleveland goes into Oakland. Like, the Raiders are a mess.
Yeah, they really are. And it's really surprising to see that the great quarterback guru, John Gruden, is really not sure what he has.
David Carr might not be the answer. Derek Carr, sorry. Derek Carr.
Yeah, David Carr's definitely not the answer.
Well, yeah. Well, he's in the booth now.
Right.
And he wasn't the answer when he played.
Ugh. He had a couple good games with Houston, but that was about it.
But they put him in front of his shambles of offensive line. I'm surprised he didn't get killed.
You're right. But no, give me Cleveland. I like the defense.
Yeah. God, can you imagine the Browns, man?
Open up that beer fridge one more time.
Hey, they did. And we saw what the city of Cleveland did when that fridge is open. Let's go to Baltimore and Pittsburgh, only because I'm a Ravens fan.
Ooh, big rivalry.
And we know, Baltimore and Pittsburgh throw all the record books and spreads and lines out when these two play. Because, man, it is – talk about two teams that don't like each other but have a great respect for each other. It's in Pittsburgh, so they are getting there's -3 to Pittsburgh here. Baltimore they've been a sneaky good offensive team.
Oh, very, very much so.
With the additions of John Brown and Michael Crabtree. I mean, every week I feel like those two are trying to outdo each other. They found a good third down running back in Buck Allen. Alex Collins is starting to go a little bit. So the Ravens have always been known about defense, and the defense is there this year.
Yes.
And we know Mosley's hurt right now. We'll see if he plays or not. But that offense, man, is looking sneaky good.
This game is always great, especially when it's in prime time. It's the Sunday night game this week. In Pittsburgh, though, I gotta roll with Pittsburgh.
Well, they did. Pittsburgh did rally. They got that win they needed against Tampa Bay, but the Steelers are still a dramatic mess, man. This has to be the most dramatic team. I thought it was the Redskins when RG3 was there. But no, the Steelers are showing everybody up. Oh, we know we're the divas of the NFL.
They certainly are, but they can also still put up some serious offensive. They can put up some serious offense. And yeah, I look, defense travels, so I think that this is going to be a great game from start to finish. And I would not be shocked at all if the Ravens kept things going. But something about Pittsburgh in prime time, and I think that Pittsburgh just makes enough, and I think they cover and they win.
All right. Are there any other games you want to pick before we transition?
Well, let's see
Anything
here.
on the list that you're looking at?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. You have a divisional. I tell you, we talk about young quarterbacks. Man, is Patrick Mahomes looking good?
Woo! No, already he's the MVP. Yeah.
I mean, and I'd like to know. I haven't done my research on this, but I'd like to know how many rookies have won MVP. But
season, I would guess none.
I would think. I'm not sure, but I would think.
Yeah, if the season ended today, MVP. And Mahomes is, man, with Mahomes too, it's just not. Andy Reid's a very good offensive coach. He was put in a very good offensive system. But his arm is just, good Lord, the kid's got a cannon for an arm.
He's got cannon. He has got poise. He's got maturity. He knows exactly where he's going with it. I mean, as fans, we want to see some of these players right away, but there's something to be said for, hey, look, Aaron Rodgers had to wait his turn, and look at what he's become. And then you look at Patrick Mahomes, he had to wait his turn. And credit to the Chiefs who were getting criticized. They said, look, even with Alex Smith, we're all in on Patrick Mahomes, and they followed through, and look at what he's doing. Now, granted, it's early to the season.
This is the 10th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And when they drafted him, I was like, who?
Right.
Who?
Yeah.
Who?
So I think that's an intriguing game. You have Chiefs at Broncos, division rivalry.
Broncos coming off a loss to the Ravens.
There you go. Kansas City favored by 4.5. But the Broncos, the one thing that you know, and by the way, talk about prime time, Monday night game at Mile High. That is a really, really tough game. I think that this is going to be the first time we see Mahomes in prime time, and it's going to be his first time where it's all eyes on him. And what are you going to do? Come on, rookie. What are you?
Don't. What are you going to do, Rook, on this big national stage?
But he just looks like he's not really shit.
Well, no, we can't call him a rookie. Sorry, we called him a rookie.
Right, that's true. I know. We can't call him a rookie. His first year starting, but I say that Broncos. So Kansas City favored by 4.5. I say Broncos cover. I say they don't cover, but Kansas City wins.
I'll go KC wins. Actually, I think that this is a pick against the spread for me. I think this is going to be like a touchdown victory here. I think it'll be a close game, but I'll call it like a touchdown victory here.
Okay, so Kansas City favored by 4.5. I say they win by 3.
All right, so very football heavy show. That's just the way the time of the year is. But I do want to get into a little bit of baseball as we are winding down here on the clock.
Man, this thing did fly by.
Yeah, I know, man. We're going to have to expand the show to 2 hours. It's the end of the regular season for the baseball season. And unless you're a Baltimore Orioles apologist like I am, baseball season ended for you in May. Why hockey season was still going on for me.
I think after this season, baseball season is just over forever. I think.
In Baltimore, yeah, you might as well just pack that team up and send them up to Montreal or something. In next year's roster, I have no idea who's going to be on.
I think it may still be
half
the case.
The Norfolk Tides might be on at this point. I have no idea who's going to be on that roster.
It may still be the case, but at one point they said that the Boston Red Sox were 50 games ahead of the Baltimore Orioles.
Oh, I think they had like the largest game lead in like Major League Baseball history. And actually, I made a bet with a very good friend of mine, Jason, who's a diehard Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
Where the Orioles going to have more losses, where the Red Sox going to have more wins. So far, I am losing that bet because the Orioles have like 111 losses and the Red Sox have 106 wins.
They are calling mercy in Baltimore.
I think they called mercy in May. But so what do we got so far? The Cubs and the Brewers clinched playoff spots last night in the National League. Dodgers and Rockies they're going to battle out in the West. The American League is pretty much set up.
Yeah.
And actually, in my opinion, the American League Championship Series is probably going to be the World Series. You've got all the best teams in the American League. You've got Houston. You've got Boston. You've got New York. The A's can be sneaky good in the playoffs. That's a team you don't want to play in the playoffs, the A's. I think we'll get down the line. We'll get into World Series predictions and playoffs and whatnot. But I want to transition and talk about to one team who will not be playing postseason baseball for the first time in years, and that's the Washington Nationals. Man, what a dud they laid this season. What a dud of a season. One of the best rosters in all of baseball.
And then you go back, and we've been asking it all season. It looks like that move to get rid of Dusty Baker.
I was not a fan of it. I don't think they should have fired Dusty either.
No, I really didn't like it either. I don't see. Look, I understand Washington, since they moved back to Washington, not a single playoff series win. I get how hungry they are.
That's the curse of DC sports.
That's which was partially broken.
Which is partially broken, yes. Go Caps, go, baby.
There you go. When I understand that you want it now, and I understand how much you wanted to see. And yes, this for years, for at least the last 5 to 6 years, the Nationals have consistently had one of the best rosters in baseball. They've consistently had one of the.
Do.
They still do, yeah.
Yeah, one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. You got Max Scherzer, Steven Strasburg.
And now Strasburg, granted, it's like whether or not he's healthy, it seems like a week-to-week
Tanner
thing.
Roark. I mean,
Tanner
Gio Gonzalez, who I know Gio didn't have the best year this year, but he's still he's still a good third or fourth pitcher.
I just don't see how you get rid of a guy who won you back-to-back division titles for the first time ever. I mean, it didn't make sense to me.
It didn't make sense to me either.
And Bryce Harper, who, by the way, I would hope you're gonna do your darndest to keep. He loved Dusty. He loved him.
Yeah.
And I just, it's a chance to make your superstar happy. It's a chance to keep some consistency in place. Yeah, you felt like you should have beat the Cubs, who, by the way, the Cubs were, kind of a shell of what they were the year before when they won the World Series, and everybody was picking the Nationals to beat them, and maybe they should have, maybe they shouldn't have, but man, that was a puzzler for me. I didn't get it.
Well, speaking of Bryce Harper, I do want to touch on him a little bit because there is some news out today. The Washington Post is reporting it that the Nationals are considering re-signing him, and Bryce is at least going to listen. I mean, you always take the interview. You always at least listen.
Absolutely.
Do I see it happening? I don't know. But if indeed Bryce Harper's last game at Nationals Park last night, was last night. It's very fitting for the Bryce Harper era in D.C. He goes 0 for 4. Meanwhile, Victor Robles, their 21-year-old called-up prospect, hits a home run, has like 5 RBIs on the night.
So I was talking to somebody about Bryce Harper, and I asked him, do you think, again, another diehard Nationals fan, and I asked him, do you think that Bryce is sticking around? He said, I don't know. He said, but one thing I do know, the Nationals are going to go at, they're going to try to keep him there. The question is, it's all going to depend on the market and what the other teams,
the money that the learners want to spend. Yeah.
The thing that should make Nationals fans feel really good, it can't be lip service because he has said it too many times. Bryce Harper has shown serious interest. He wants to stay in Washington. He's said it too many times, and I know that people are going to say, oh, yeah, that's all BS until the right contract comes along. I truly believe him when he says he wants to stay in Washington.
Yeah.
The question is, like you said, other offers are going to come around, and I think in his mind, he's thinking, look, if the Cubs come around, I don't think the Yankees. I think that ship has sailed with the Yankees. I think they're pretty happy with their stars right now. I don't see them going after.
I mean, their outfield's set. The Yankees' outfield is set.
Yeah, the Yankees' outfield's set, so I don't see them going after. But you never really know. But I feel like they're set. There's been talks of
the Cubs, because him and Chris Bryant are like childhood friends.
There's been talk of the Padres, which is really interesting. But
Bryce Harper on the West Coast, that would be interesting.
There's been talks of the Dodgers. So whoever offers Bryce, and whatever the contract is, Bryce's next step, I think, will be to ask the Nationals, okay, can you match?
I got this contract. Can you match?
Can you match?
Do I think he's a $400 million player like he thinks he is? I don't think so. I mean, we haven't seen the MVP Bryce Harper that we saw. There's been times where Bryce has come into these big moments and it could lead the Nationals and be that guy, and the crowd's pumped up and everyone's ready to go, and Bryce strikes out. And look, the Nationals, if Bryce does move on, are set in the outfield. You got Juan Soto, 19 years old, who looks like a future MVP.
Mm-hmm.
You got Victor Robles, who, like I said, last night came in, had 5 RBIs. He's 21. You got Michael Wade Taylor. You got Adam Eaton. You've got more prospects in the outfield than you know what to do with. For the Nationals to keep Bryce Harper, for me, it would all be about having a star player on their team. Do they need Bryce? No, they don't, because I think their future is set. Do they want to keep Bryce? Yes, they do, because they're looking at DC right now, and they're looking at the stars in this team, and they want to be relevant. They're looking at John Wall and the Wizards. They're looking at what Alexander Ovechkin and the Capitals just did, and they all made themselves stars when they're doing water angel fountains and drinking out of and doing cup stands and taking the Stanley Cup to all the bars and everything. Those are the new stars in town, I'm sorry, or the Washington Capitals, and I have looked it up. Capitals are now the most expensive ticket in DC. So I think he stays? Like you said, if they can match whatever offer comes his way, whether it's the Cubs, the Padres, I think he does. I mean, like you said, also, I've read a lot of reports about him and Rizzo. They've gone to dinner a lot during this season. So you got to think talks are going on between the two of them and how they can keep Bryce in DC.
It's a strong statement to say they don't need him. I think that's a very strong statement. It's like saying the Capitals, even though he's old, don't need Ovechkin. I mean,
yeah, but Ovechkin's like leading the league in goals and is like a star player.
I completely get it, but there's something to be said. 2 things. Number one, yeah, his bat was not good this year. Bryce Harper's bat was not good. And sometimes the best medicine for players is the end of the season, quite honestly. I mean, sometimes they just need to hit the reset button. Second of all, you're not duplicating with anybody. I'm sorry, but Soto right now is, like you said, I sort of agree with
a future MVP All-Star.
Right, but let's be real about this, that Harper is a guy who can fill the stands right now.
Well, yeah,
and
that's what I said. His star power, the Nationals need his star power. And I think more than his bat.
And he's a heck of an outfielder. He still
plays the game really hard.
He's still an all-star outfielder, and yeah, it's like you're putting all your chips in the Soto. I totally get that. But to say they don't need Bryce, a little strong for me right now. I think think about this. We were talking about Aaron Judge when he made his first All-Star game, not this past year, but the year before. When he made his first All-Star game, by that point, I think they said Judge was 27 and made his first All-Star game. Bryce Harper was 23 and had played in 5 All-Star games.
That's true.
That's something you can't really duplicate.
That's very true. Okay, wow, man, this hour flies by. I know we might have to extend this show to 2 hours. Good Lord, because that's why I love this time of the year. Just so much going on, so much more football. I mean, we haven't even touched on what Kevin Durant said today, Kevin Durant, if you're listening, which I highly doubt you are, nobody hates you, bud. Nobody hates you, including me. I'm a huge Kevin Durant fan. Nobody hates you, okay? Stop thinking people hate you. Stop thinking the world hates Kevin Durant.
I think, that's motivational tactics, man.
But
whatever gets you motivated.
We'll talk more NBA and NHL as that's coming up, and we're right around the corner from college basketball season too.
Yeah,
I think that's two of our favorite time of the year. I think ODU's got Media Day coming up soon, right?
Yeah, I mean, Old Dominion. You got the whole slate. I mean, first of all, this is my favorite time of the year. Just aside from football combined with college football combined with Major League postseason.
There's nothing better than Major League postseason baseball.
It is hard to beat, and not last year's postseason, but the year before when the Cubs went on to win the World Series. That to me was the greatest postseason in my lifetime.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, that World Series went to 7 games. And,
no, not just that. Everything leading up to it was spectacular. I mean, I remember that was the year that the Nationals lost to the Dodgers. I believe it was in the NLDS, and you had Murphy, I believe, at the plate with Bryce Harper on second. I mean, just everything that went into that was so drama filled. It was so wonderful.
And I think we're going to see that out of the American League this year. That's going to be. Like I said, the winner of the ALCS is probably your World Series winner. All right, if there's anyone left listening to this show, thank you very much for stopping by. Thanks for stopping by for the first episode of Here's the Thing. I will actually be off next week because I will be out of town for a wedding, but I'll be back next week and every Thursday after that. Hey, remember to love one another, and remember, smile. It's free. It does the world pretty good.
There you go.
For myself, Jesse Varner, and Wavy TV 10's Nathan Epstein. Nathan, say goodbye to the folks.
All right. It was fun, man. I'm glad I could be here for your first one, man. It was awesome.
Do you want to come back?
Yeah. Happy to be back anytime,
We'll definitely
man.
have you back on the show.
All right.
I think we might have to expand it to 2 hours, and then maybe go back to 1 hour once baseball season starts.
There you go.
Okay. For Here's the Thing, my name is Jesse Varner. That was Nathan Epstein. We're going to take you back to your regular scheduled music here on WODU. Thank you very much for stopping by. First show in the bag. You can follow me on Twitter, JesseWTKR. Nathan, where can they follow you?
Nathan_Epstein. Would love to have you along, and everybody have a great weekend.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram too. It's JV News 3. Everyone have a great weekend. Take in Old Dominion and ECU. I got to pick against ODU in this one. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Monarch Nation.
You realize this. You want to gain listeners,
I know.
right?
I don't want to lose listeners, but I don't know. Down in Greenville, we'll see what happens. All right, like I said, remember, everybody love each other. Smile. It's free. Do something good for the world. All right, guys, I'm out.